Again, guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to go through a couple of things in regards to money regarding rugby. Now, some people will call it a crisis, some people will call it a little blip, but honestly, this is something that I feel has been happening for many years. COVID definitely did not help. So let's run through, a couple points as to why I think rugby is really struggling financially, and maybe put up a couple points, and hopefully this will open up a conversation. So let's look at the financial landscape of rugby. So if we look at it from the big picture, right, we look at rugby as a whole. So we take into consideration the URC, we take into consideration the Gallagher Premiership, top 14 and things like this, and obviously they took a massive hit. Now we need to look into stadiums, player wages, general costs of running a club. There are a lot of behind the scene things that when you look as a supporter in, you don't see. Right? You see the big flashy tries and tackles in this game and this game and this, you look at the Saints, they just traveled to South Africa. Who's paying for that? Right? Where does that money come from? It's not free. So you have to look into everything. Right? Now, obviously, rugby is not as much of a big sport as football or American football or any of these. So they struggle a lot more. And oftentimes they really have to rely on their wealthy owners to help them keep the clubs running, right? So you look at COVID, right? Football and all of these other major sports, they were able to recover relatively quickly through COVID. And rugby didn't. You got to take in consideration fans weren't going to stadiums. Everything was closed. Wages needed to be paid, right? Just there wasn't incoming revenue like at all from TV, from sponsors, from pretty much everywhere. So just as everybody else is struggling, so were sports clubs. So you look at the governance of the sport, and this is something that I feel goes back further than COVID. It's not something new. It is not something that was created by COVID. And you look at all the different leagues, the different unions, you got World Rugby, you got, every bloody competition under the sun. And all of them have different views. They have different priorities, and each of them are on their own entities, which makes things so much harder because nobody knows where they stand, right? So many different sets of rules, so many different structures, and how are you supposed to be consistent if there are 9 billion different leagues that are just fighting? And it's difficult. It really is difficult. So you look at all of these clubs, and all of these clubs, they try their hardest to stay afloat, and we've seen a couple horror stories as well. But with all of these different leagues, everyone trying to expand far too quickly without having a proper financial plan in place, it's causing serious problems. And a lot of clubs aren't able to maintain and keep up with everything that's going on. So you look at, for example, player wages, right? Resources, costs. Players want to get paid more, right? Especially the top level players. They want to be paid the best that they possibly can get paid. Oh, sorry about that. So essentially, players want big salaries. Clubs are getting pressured into paying them because they want to stay competitive. But you look at revenue, incoming, outgoing, at some point it becomes unsustainable and eventually something has to give. So you look at American football, you look at football. They don't have the same level of TV deals. They don't have the same level of sponsors. Football is everywhere, right? And people pay ridiculous amounts to watch football, where rugby, not so much. And, it's not advertised on anywhere near enough the scale that football is. So you look at all of these ridiculous wages that clubs are playing footballers for, but you look at how much income they are taking in to be able to pay these players to be able to be sustainable. It's nowhere near what rugby have. Rugby have a fraction of that, but players want to be paid well. So what gives? The player or the club? If you want to lose your players, you can't pay them because you want to try and balance your books. And he's like, okay, look, I'm going to go find somewhere else. Someone that's going to pay me more, right? Go to the rugby league, go to URC, go wherever. They'll go where they want to get their money. And if some other club is willing to pay for it, okay, now you've just lost one of your best players, right? So it's difficult. It really, really is difficult. And again, I think this goes from the top down. It's the governance on how rugby is run as a sport. And again, I'm just opening up conversation. I am no financial expert. I am no amazing, person that has in-depth connections and things like that. This is just what I see as someone that is looking from the outside in, right? Because you look at clubs like the Wasps, they went bankrupt. You look at the changes that happened in the Gallagher Premiership. Why? Right? So there's a lot of things going on here, which I find is very difficult to digest, considering rugby. I wouldn't say it's so popular. It's really, really popular, but clubs are financially in trouble, right? And how are you supposed to stay competitive? It's this vicious cycle, right? And then we look into grassroots football, right? My son, he goes to rugby. He goes to our local club. The funding isn't there. How are you supposed to bring up that next level talent if the funding isn't there? But again, it comes from the top down. Where does it stand? Where does it become financially possible, right? Without running yourself into the ground. Because in order to have good grassroots rugby, you have to be able to provide the correct environments. You have to be able to provide the correct equipment, the correct coaching staff, because like a lot of our staff that we have at our local club, they volunteer. They do it for free, right? They take their time out of their day to see our youngsters improve, all right? And it's horrible to see. Well, it's nice to see that they love the game so much, but that level of support just is not there. And we have this decline in grassroots rugby, which again, it is difficult, because without a strong grassroots system, you are going to find clubs like England, clubs like Wales, quite evidently Wales, are not bringing up good talent. Why are Ireland, New Zealand, and South Africa constantly bringing up talent that is some of the best in the world? You look at France, they're doing the exact same thing. Talent after talent after talent. Why? There is reason behind it. And even these nations struggle as well, right? So again, I'm just opening up conversation. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Maybe I'm talking absolute BS, but honestly, I feel a change needs to be made. So this is one that I've actually made a note for, because is there a way to change it? Right? Is there a way to make a change, to make things more viable? Right? So you look at the calendar. Surely there is a way to align the global calendar, right? Instead of having everything here, there, and everywhere, to align the global calendar to make things easier to market. Because I can guarantee you now, looking at rugby, they are everywhere. I get lost trying to figure out who's playing, when they're playing, what they're doing, right? And this is me as an actual rugby fan. It's difficult. And aligning everything so that it makes it easier to market, right? Then we need to put in, and this is just something that I had brief idea on, but again, this is the conversation. Better salary caps, right? And this will allow clubs to prevent them from overspending on players, right? And I don't know, this is something that I feel needs to be managed better, because clubs, they don't want to lose their best talent, and they are just going and spending and spending and spending. And you see one player get this much. Oh, I want this much. I feel I deserve this. I feel I deserve X, Y, and Z, right? Because he's earning it. And where does that leave everybody else in the club, right? And then serious investment in grassroots rugby. Grassroots rugby needs to be your foundation. It needs to be where you are bringing up the best of the best, right? This is where funding needs to be made to bring your next youth up, right? So we look at everything to kind of finish off. If we do not see changes, if things are not handled better, we are going to find way more clubs going into bankruptcy. Players, staff losing their jobs, right? Changes being made left, right, center. Things need to change, because I don't want to see the game that I love be destroyed because they cannot add structure into the game. I guarantee you now, and this is a question I put to you, go look for football and look at how it's marketed. Then go look at rugby. How is it marketed? Rugby is so confusing to keep up with. It is so confusing because you have the Maori All Blacks, you have the All Blacks, you got the Sevens, you got the 15s, you got this team, that team, this team, that team, this championship, that championship, you got international championships, left, right, center, you got club championships, left, right, center. It's good to have that much content, you can say, to provide rugby fans games, but how is it being marketed? How is it being shown to the wider public? But just my thoughts. So if you guys do want to see more rugby content or more things like this, please like and subscribe, as it really does help my channel. And on that note, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.